This is the native lobster. It's probably the most recognisable of all the shellfish. Now there's a number of different management measures for the lobster in the UK. There's a minimum landing size which is measured from here to here. It's 87 millimetres, but in certain areas of the UK it's been increased to 90. There's also a restriction on landing buried hens in a number of areas. These are when you get the female carries eggs here. There's also in a variety of areas around the UK, V-notching schemes. This is where a V is taken out of this tail fan or the telson. Now, any time a fisherman catches a lobster with a V in it, they've actually got to throw it back until it grows out, which takes about 2 years. So it gives the animal another chance to breed. This is the North American lobster, which is a cousin to the species we get in the UK. We import about 2,000 tonnes of these animals each year. The eastern offshore Canadian fishery is actually Marine Stewardship Council certified as a sustainable fishery.
With the native lobster, generally speaking, it's a little bit more expensive than a Canadian, but it has a very, very fine and sweet flavour, and it's perfect for salads and standalone dishes. For a Canadian, it's got a slightly more robust flavour, and that works particularly well with dishes like a lobster thermidor. I'm going to show you how to take a native lobster and how to remove the tail and how to actually remove the tail meat in one piece. And with the Canadian lobster, we're going to look at splitting that in half and coating it with a thermidor sauce ready to pop under the grill. That is going to take these lobsters are going to take between 10 and 12 minutes to cook per pound. When it comes to actually killing them or cooking them, you need to look on the internet and choose the method that you're most comfortable with. For this native lobster, I'm going to grasp the tail and just twist it away from the main head and pull it out like so. In order to extract this in one piece, I'm going to use scissors and I'm going to snip down the centre of the shell, right the way down to the tail. Turn the lobster tail over and do the same thing on the second side. To open up the head shell, I'm going to use scissors just to cut straight through the top. In the centre of the lobster you have the liver, which is also known as a tomoli, and that looks a sort of a creamy brown colour. It's actually delicious, and you want to make sure that you use that. It can be tossed into the salad as part of the dressing, but don't discard it. If it's a hen lobster has a slightly wider tail, and when you split the lobster open you may find a little bit of red roe or deep sort of orangey coloured roe in there, and again that's also edible. What you want to remove and discard are the gills, which again from a crab preparation you'd understand that as being a dead man's fingers, and if I pull that right back you can see the gills in here. You don't want to eat those and they need to be discarded. The other thing that you don't want is the intestinal tract, which runs down the centre of the back of the tail shell of the lobster, which we can extract from splitting a lobster shortly. Around by the head there's also the stomach sac and the mouthpiece, which we can look again when we split the other lobster. I'm going to snap off the claws at the top part, and there are various methods to actually extract the meat. You can either use lobster crackers, and actually if you're serving this as a first course and you're serving it literally in the shell, lobster crackers will help your guests actually extract the meat. For me, what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to just, in order to get the meat out, is tap the shell sharply, just until the shell cracks. Pull off the claws, snap those out. You need to be a little bit careful with this because these shells are very, very sharp. And pull that away. There's more meat in this part here. I'm going to crack that to actually extract, and I'm going to then use a little seafood stick to actually remove the meat from there. Now in the centre here, a fishmonger would pride themselves, and actually, or even a chef actually, would pride themselves in actually extracting this in one piece. There is a little bit of cartilage in there which you need to remove, and I'm actually going to today just pull that away and break that meat down, and I'm going to pop that into a dish ready to toss into my salad a bit later. With the tail, I've actually split that in half today just to extract the digestive tract. There's a little line that runs all the way along the tail, and that's going to be pulled out. I'm then going to slice the tail into nice big chunky medallions ready just to toss into a salad. To prepare this lobster to split in half and cook for lobster thermidor, I'm going to take a sharp knife and I'm going to make an incision at the middle of the shell here of the head. Knife goes in, split the shell in half, turn the lobster round and split straight down the tail. You can use scissors if the shell is quite thick. So I'm also going to give the claws a really good thwack, just to allow it to crack so that the heat can actually get into those claws very quickly. So when the whole thing heats up and grills, you're going to get the heat into the claws at the same time. What we don't want is the mouthpiece and the stomach sac. That is close to the top of the head. I'm going to snip those out. What we also want to look for is the digestive tract, and that wants to be pulled away. And we want to get rid of that. Because it's going to grill, I'm just going to trim off the little feelers at the top here because they're just going to burn under the grill. And the other thing you can do is just trim off the little feelers or little legs just at the base of the tail, because again, those burn quite easily. The next step is to coat the lobster with a thermidor sauce. This is a combination of herbs, particularly tarragon and chervil. There's some shallot in there, there's a bit of creme fraiche, and we're going to coat that over the lobster and then sprinkle it with parmesan and pop it under the grill. If you're going to prepare this in advance, the sauce must be completely cold before it comes into contact with the cooked lobster. It will then need very little time under the grill. I've chosen to use a cooked lobster in this particular case as it just gives us a chance to grill the sauce but also to heat the lobster and the claws. And then finally, a little sprinkling of Parmesan cheese, which will help that go really nice and brown under the grill. So what we've got is two fantastic ideas for cooked lobster. We've got a salad. What I've done is take the meat out of the native lobster, dice up the tail meat into medallions, extracted the claw meat, and those have been tossed into samphire. In here, we've just got a little bit of olive oil, lemon juice, and a tiny bit of palm sugar just to take off the acidity from the lemon, a few spring onions, and just piled together as a very simple salad. With the other lobster, which is a Canadian lobster, we've done lobster thermidor. So we've cracked the claws, opened it up, extracted everything that you don't want and coated it with a lobster thermidor sauce, and then just a few minutes under the grill to allow the meat to heat through well, the Parmesan cheese to grill and brown, and the claws to heat through. And by cracking the claws you can get the heat into those. For serving, I'm just going to brush those claws with a little bit of oil, make them look really smart and glossy, and then you just need to serve that with a little bit bowl of water to dip your fingers in, so a little bit of slice of lemon in there, and a jolly good bib to enjoy the best and all the juices from the lobster.